The show is still the Eastern Business Report on the Afia Business Morning. I'm Nnamdi Obanya. Like I promised, the founder and CEO of Afia, Chief Emeka Mba, will be joining us to talk about the positioning of the media as a stakeholder in the Eastern business ecosystem. Now, the Southeast is probably the region with the least strategic engagement of media, while the Southwest has perfected the art of using the media for reputation management and promotion, and the Northern regions have tailored the media to drive their political and ideological agendas. The Southeast is yet to marry media to its own identity, business. Media has moved on from being a promotional appendage for business, and it's now in itself a big business. So why does the region continue to treat it like a leper? And how does media in the region take its place as a stakeholder and vital industry sector? To help us iron out all these creases is the founder and CEO of Afia, Chief Emeka Mba. Good morning, Chief Doctor.
Thanks, Nnamdi. It's good to be here with you.
So let me come off straight away from the business summit recently in Nnewi, because it was a pleasant surprise that a media outfit was given a stakeholder position to speak. Usually the media is just filmers and interviewers. Yeah. So what would you say drove this? Is it an initiative of the Nnewi Chamber and Commerce? What drove them to say the media has to be a stakeholder in this?
This is a very good question. I didn't even, see the ramifications until now, the way you put it. But I think it took the effort of this company that we just recently got into some sort of strategic department partnership with its critics. The CEO and some of the members of the management were active members of the Nnewi Chamber. And, they informed us about this event, and we engaged with the chamber directly. And we made the case that, look, as you rightly pointed out during your initial monologue here, you can't, the East is known for business, but there's no linkage between the businesses, all the huge businesses, Inosin, Chikasin, Kutix, and all the big businesses, and Nnewi is a manufacturing hub. But you don't hear that story. You don't hear carefully curated story of the successes or even the challenges that they face. And when you talk about Nnewi, you realize that this is probably the number one automotive manufacturing. They assemble motorcycles, innocent manufactures vehicles, motorcycles, spare parts, all of those things. But there's no curated storytelling. And I think for that realization of the role of media in beginning to sort of shape a narrative for what needs to happen to the Southeast is growing. So when we made the pitch, it was very sort of easy to explain it, and they understood it, and they were willing for us to engage them on that level. And you're right, not as a come and film us, interview one or two people and go, but understanding that there is a strategic need for engagement of media, and I think it's growing. But we also need to do a lot more on our own end, as people in the media business ourselves, to push our narrative of the importance of what we do, to how the stories and the events are reported, but more importantly, how we shape that narrative that you just rightly pointed out. We need, in setting up Afia, we were very, very deliberate in choosing a name that sort of reflected the vision, which is Afia. Afia means business. Afia means trade. Afia means, commerce. And that's what we set out to do.
So you mentioned something now about, the media having its own part to play. Mm-hmm. And I think I'd like to come for that angle, because you mentioned curated storytelling. And maybe on our own part, this is where the problem is. There seems to be a disconnect between the creativity and the innovation. What is it that we're not doing well that those out? Because you see, people who do food, when somebody takes tomatoes and makes tomato paste, mm-hmm. Their product. When somebody, takes metal and starts doing spare parts, their product. Yeah. We seem to be in a raw material based industry where we've not turned these stories, this content into products that the businessman can identify. So what's it we're doing wrong that we've not been able to set this value proposition for them that, look, this is a product. It's not just a service, it's an actual product. It's the difference between a washerman and a dry cleaner. Why have we not been able to package these things as products?
So it's a challenge that we ourselves face, and it's almost like a historical one. In this space, we have treated media and the businesses and even the media ourselves rather, have treated our role as simply that of reportage, just to be present, to sort of mark it's like almost the same way we treat cultural dances. When a VIP is in town, we bring people to dance, and that's so in a way, even the dancers themselves see themselves as, I'm just here to entertain VIPs, but the bigger stories and the importance of the culture and dance itself is sort of lost. And the same thing with us. We have, sort of seen our role, whether it's from the time of NTA to ESBS to ABS and so on, is just simply to be present and report. The storytelling, you use the phrase curated storytelling, that's important to understand that this is a zone with some, rather unique, peculiar characteristics, and it has to be reported and reflected as such. And what are the challenges? Look, Nnewi is the biggest manufacturing hub in Nigeria, one of the biggest, if I can say that. And it has huge challenges. The roads are, thanks to Governor Soludo now, the roads have been attended to. But if you were to come to it, you would just see that how come all these activities are going on here? Yeah. And yet, the roads, you see huge, hundreds of trailers, container trailers. But then the infrastructure is no, as someone said, I think it was the commissioner for industry during that event on Saturday, said something. Innocent Manufacturers is the leading vehicle manufacturer in Nigeria, yet Nnewi, as a city, doesn't have public transportation system. It doesn't have. Everything is keke and motorcycle. It doesn't exist. So it is about how we treat ourselves as a group of people, understanding there's a larger mission. It's not just about the individual. It's not just about Afia TV. It's about all of us in the media space understanding that there is a higher calling, a higher responsibility about how we tell the stories around this region. And you put it, we treat it, we don't commodify it, we don't treat it as simply a commodity, but we treat it as, products with service, with a brand. That's why during my talk to the manufacturers and to the business community in Nnewi, I said there's a need for us to look at how we build brands, and you need the media to help to build those brands. So it's not just that you're manufacturing spare tires or brake pads, but that, what does that brand, what does it stand for? And that's how we can help. So it's something that requires all of us, in the media, and also to sort of reflect on what our roles are and how we can better serve our community.
When you said innocent is there, I thought you were going to say, but there are no roads. I wasn't expecting that the person who makes the buses, CNG, diesel, that in that city, they don't have mass transit. Hearing it now is actually kind of strange.
But it's a fact.
But does that now expose a cultural problem? Because in 2021, I went to Ihiala for a friend's mom's burial, and I was looking at these mansions with gully erosions across the road, and I said, why is everybody, all these millionaires and billionaires? And he said, look, it's the way it is. When you see the erosion, go and buy Hilux if you can't buy it on your own. So is that a cultural problem of, too much self-reliance and self-sufficiency that has not allowed for building communities and has not allowed the region to properly engage government, and to where I'm coming to? And is that probably why that same attitude of we don't need is maybe what is going to media now? Like, we don't need good market to sell itself. We don't need media.
So, look, we live in an attention economy. Let's not, and that's a fact. Whether you make the best brake pads in the Nnewi for the whole of Africa, you will be marginal at best. Marginal in terms of your ability to sell your products. And you'll be at a higher risk if someone else were to come because there's no brand loyalty. And so there is that storytelling that is required, even for us as an entire region. And part of it is the key thing you mentioned now about the rise of that. I'm just responsible for myself, for my business, for my compound. And if the road is bad, instead of requiring government or insisting that government fixes it, I'll just buy myself a Hilux. If the security is bad, instead of me to, push government to fix it, I'll just rent some cops and with guns and buy them a Hilux and they follow me around. It's that thing where we're doing where we're not. But yeah, it's a cultural thing, I must confess. I mean, if you look at it, but it's a narrative that we need to push back on because it's an unsustainable narrative about how we only do things because we can get away with it. So, I will only do something that favors me, but not the community. And Igbos have always been a very communal people. I think to a large extent, we're in crisis. And it's our role as, whether it's media people, whether it's business leaders, thoughts leaders, to sort of reshape that narrative about, you can still do your commerce, you can still do whatever you need to do, but let us reflect on how we can make a better society that favors all of us. It's that enlightened self-interest that I think is almost missing now. And enlightened self-interest within a group sense. And that's really what I think that we need to pursue a lot more.
So, where did it go wrong? Because I'm looking for the fracture points. And people say, oh, maybe it's the Civil War. Because, looking at, my own local culture, looking at my own Umuna, was how I understood the press and the masquerade, Igbos have always been media-savvy people, They've always had town criers. They've always had ways of pushing messages through when the Diopas meet back to Umuna. When they want to criticize prominent people, we've always had masquerade societies that would criticize you with parables, and you can't prosecute a spirit, so nobody can tell you who it is. Then we come down and we see, even after the Civil War, we look at the contributions for Simon Bakwe airports from individuals. We look at People's Club of Nigeria. So where are all these community? Where did it? So it can't be the Civil War, because a lot of it is post-Civil War. So where is the fracture point that led to this ironclad individualism that it's helpful because it was move around the country, and the ability not to depend on their environment helps them survive anywhere?
I think sometimes trauma can skip a generation. So when you look at it from that context, that yes, a lot of the activities post-Civil War, a lot of the communalism was aggressively, we pursued it aggressively to help us deal with the fallouts of the Civil War, in terms of how we were able to claw back from £20 that we had, that everybody was given to building the industries and the big businesses and how our cities look now. But I think largely you cannot discount the impact of the Civil War, because you can, it's like running a marathon. If you start aggressively, midway to it, you will fall out. So maybe we just took off, so strong, and then now we're beginning to see that. And then politically, there was no. We suffered from a sort of a transfer of the body, culture, and politics of what it means to be an Igbo person into the later generations that came up. My generation, for example, a lot of people, I grew up in this town largely, and at some point, everyone I knew, everyone I went to school with, was either in the UK, America, Germany, or somewhere. Everybody left. Enugu had a different kind of, talked about it on my show, Enugu had a certain civility, which was lost. I mean, if you look at the city now, where is the cultural epicenter? There is no place for arts and culture. There's no arts village, there's no crafts village, there's no public library, there's no zoo, there's no soft spot for a city. So it's either you're going to a beer parlor or
shopping mall.
And so every city needs a softness, because that's what's helps us to even if you go back classic pre-colonial, we had like you said, we had the Umunna, we had the village square, we had a place where people could gather and talk. Those are the soft edges of a society. And when a society or a city or a people lose the softness, you're going to have jagged edges, and we're dealing with the consequences of those things. But I think that's why I think for us in the media and the elite, we need to drive conversations towards back to the necessity and back to, because it also has a commercial sense to it.
Yeah.
And because we're numbers people, count money all the time. There is an importance for going back, because it will create a society that will patronize your products, that will grow our own economy and make sure that we live a much more comfortable life.
So one thing we mentioned earlier was, how we don't relate with government. You see, police, army, civil defense, air force, everybody saying Southeasterners are the lowest.
Yeah.
They're not interested. Nigerian Aviation Academy said the Southeast is the lowest. So there's this disdain for anything associated with central government. I think with the exception of the federal universities in the region, there's literally no other federal establishment that the Easterner is interested in at all. And this now brings me to it. If the businesses are not engaging government properly, is the media doing any better? Because it seems as if the governments in the region too don't understand how to help media grow. I might be wrong, but I still feel there's the government media mindset in their heads, and there's no attempt to help. Let me use Enugu and the South as an example. There's literally, we saw the Tech Fest recently.
Yes.
There's literally nothing for the creative industry. There's nothing. So the fashion people, the media, the arts, the visual artists, there is no policy. There is nothing. We know what is there for tech. We know what is there for sports. We know what is there for business. There is nothing for the creative industry.
And I think that's where the bigger challenges rest. Where, as I said, if you lose that, look, the creative industry globally, everybody talks about it. Huge investments are made in EU, in the UK, in America, in Australia, in other parts of Africa, in recognition that the creative sector has a highest multiplier effect. And even UNESCO, United Nations Agency, recognizes this fact. For every dollar you put in the creative sector, the minimum multiplication is times 4. I mean, look, the other day, the young filmmaker Dika Ofoma came here to shoot just a documentary about Enugu. And he had like 3 bosses of artists, makeup people, lights, electricians, cameramen, photographers. He even had a boss of welfare, people with food.
Yeah.
And that just gives you an example of the immense contribution, and not just the skills, because now there are young people working with him who are learning, photography, fashion, electricals, and all kinds of things. But it serves a multiplier effect. And so what I say to governments, or what I would like to say if they're listening, is that, and you have this burgeoning group of young people. 70% of the people in Enugu State, for example, are under 30. 70% of the population are under 30. So, and at that age, they are the most creative.
Yeah.
And it's something, creativity doesn't require too much capital. You don't need to set up a factory.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just need a pen and paper, a phone, or the collaboration of your friends and colleagues to tell stories, to create something, to make fashion, to do things. And I believe that if we want to reach, the 30 billion mark in 4 to 8 years, we need to make sizable investment, and not just sizable investment, but investments that are known. In other words, we're going to dedicate X amount of money to this sector. You know, I've talked about a place called Center for Memories that we've partnered with in Qatar, the last Things Fall Apart festival that was held at Chief Emeka Mba headlined. There's no grant. You know, every year there should be a published amount of money that says this center gets X amount of money to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
You know, this school gets X amount of money to do X, Y, Z. So you put a public service mandate and you attach money to it. So I could say I want to make Enugu the tourist heaven for everybody to come, a destination. You know, we've often talked about MICE. The ICC is there. But what are the key? And it's not about physical infrastructure.
What culture are the community?
Yeah, because you can build the hotels, you can build the walkways, you can build the beaches and whatever. But if there's no culture, you build that culture, and it's not a hard facility. It's not building hotels. It's about, you know, I mean, look at Enugu, for example. You fly into Enugu. There was a big event the other day, the Tech Fest or something. People come from all over the world, all over Nigeria. Where is Arts and Craft Village? Where can I go and buy curios, T-shirts that celebrate Obiago, Abapanike, celebrate? Where are the places I can go? Where are the artisans creating those things with wood, beads, with furniture, beads and things? And, you know, all those things that every tourist, in every city you go to.
From the airport.
You know, if you land in Lagos, you go to Lekki art markets. You go buy whatever you need to buy. You go to Abuja, you know there's an art and craft place. You go to Kanu, you know there's a place where you go and buy leather goods and all kinds of things.
Even something as simple as food. Like me, anywhere I go and eat. If I enter Abuja, I'm going to Area 1, Kilishi. Yeah. Enter Lagos, I know where I'm going for food. I'm going to Shita. I want to see the legendary Amala. Where is this you mentioned, the public spaces, where are the confluence of, you know, cultural items? Where do we have them and how can we bring in those things? Because if there's no culture, there's no experience.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah, if there's no culture and if there's no meeting, if there's no place where, and that's why as someone pointed out, I think it was Professor at UNN, let me not mispronounce him, Bajiogu, yes, talked about it at this last Things Fall Apart festival. Enugu, or the southeast state, 5 southeast states, are the only region we don't have a public space for arts and culture. There's no arts place, village. There's no arts. Bayelsa has, and it's a brand new state. Rivers State, if you know Rivers, has a huge arts, culture space for, and it's not the ICC, because people say, oh, they have the ICC is a conference venue. You need a place for the arts where they do drama, where the stage plays, where they do, people can gather.
It's funny, I know the one in Ibadan by Premier Hotel.
Yes.
I know the one in Abeokuta by Kuto Stadium. Yes. Like, I just said, I'm literally saying
there's no place like this.
Lagos probably has like 3.
There's no place. In every, I think that's what Ambode did before he left. He had, in all the senatorial zones, and in fact, in some local governments, you had arts centers with cinemas, with places funded by the Lagos state government. You go to J.K. Randall Center, you see the marvel of Yoruba culture and civilization there.
There's Freedom Park, Lagos Island.
There's Freedom Park just next door.
Lagos
so
Island.
Where do we find it in the southeast? Where? The library in Onitsha is still derelict.
Ihan Ichuku is raising protest every day. Nobody's attending.
So we need, and you cannot possibly want to imagine a future of young people here without creating a conscious public space where these things can happen, and can happen dynamically. And that is a tragedy. So when we talk about media, it's not just hard media in terms of places like Afia TV, Voice of the East. It's also about saturating the space with imagination, giving young people that sense that they can imagine a future, and there's a place where that imagination is let loose, and it can lead to creativity. If not, you're going to see the growth of violence and all kinds of things that are plaguing our society.
We have a minute left, but I'm not going to just leave without bringing this up, because it's one of my pet peeves, which I think is the unsympathetic nature. I was talking about no policy for the creative industry. Taxation. I know governments want to raise revenue, but it seems as if there's no nuance in understanding what different industries needs with respect to taxes and levies. I know they claim they do stakeholder engagements, but I'm of the opinion that Belmont Cakes, Afia TV, Cubana, we have different business issues, and lumping us in a hole, showing us PowerPoints of things the government is building and shouting pay your tax. It's not stakeholder engagement. So what is it that, because even if you're going to take the step now, you want to first, you have to invest to tell those stories and let the business see the value. But on the other end, there has to be some cushion from the state to encourage the businesses, the media businesses, to survive.
Yeah, I think this is the big point where a lot of things are lost. You want to do something, which is great. You want to grow the revenue of the state so that you can do more public works and deliver more public goods. But at the same time, you're creating an environment which doesn't, even for the people who are presently engaged, it doesn't give them room to feel encouraged or to even make more investment because they feel that they're being squeezed. One of the ways you do that is what we call, it's purely through tax incentives. You don't have to give anyone cash, but you can say, for example, if you're going to come and make a movie in Enugu State, 30 movies, we're looking at a budget of maybe 30 movies in Enugu State. Each one's maybe like 20, 30, 50 million. You get certain tax waivers. If you're setting up a broadcast agency or setting up a theater, you get certain, after many years, you enjoy some tax waivers, or you get some tax incentives as well. So it doesn't always have to be giving money. It also, is creating an incentive regime that encourages investment in the creative sector, and investment in creatives, as I talked about, has a much higher multiplier effect.
I think this conversation can continue forever, but I think the next thing, the next call to action will be engaging the state government.
Yeah.
That has to be engaging the government. But we've run out of time. We'll have to continue this conversation another day. It's one that has opened even another angle entirely. But thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
This morning, I think I enjoyed it more than those who watched the program.
Thank you.
And that's all we can take on the Eastern Business Report. Till I see you at 10 a.m. tomorrow for another edition of the Afia Business Morning. I'm Nnamdi Obanya saying have a very profitable business day. Up next is Only Afia.